Season 1, Episode 23, The Rounder Report.
That's news to me, of course, in a sense.
So that's news to me, Episode 3.
Well, it would be Episode 3, so I can't say that's news to me 2. It's news to me 3.
News to me 3.
Yes, and where in 10 minutes or less we will look at what's in the news of the day and
get on with it.
Bear
We're
down
already
and
30
get on with
seconds
it.
in, aren't we?
So we're already 30 seconds in. So your starter for 10, your 10 minutes starts. Half a minute to go.
Simon can't stop talking.
A new study. Well, that's it. This is it. Verbal diarrhea, mate.
Off you go. Come
Verbal diarrhea. Apparently, daily multivitamins may help improve brain function in older people, if you can remember where you put them. So what do we think about all these things that come up to that we think we can improve the avoidance of dementia, Alzheimer's, and so forth? You know, I mean, it's been suggested multivitamins, Sudoku, all these. What do we make of this? What do we make of this? Do you think this is just another load of bull?
A lot of it is psychosomatic, isn't it? But I think, especially for things like Alzheimer's, they were saying things like exercise, going for a walk, doing puzzles, reading, not being seated too much in a day, all helps with things like dementia.
Right, okay.
But in terms of multivitamins, I think it really depends on the quality of the supplements that you get, because some of it is just rubbish and nonsense, and some of it might actually have some sort of health benefits and value to it.
That positive health benefits.
Like now they're talking about, for example, there are a lot of mushroom types, reishi, lion's mane, and other types, which are supposed to be very good for your cognitive abilities.
Okay, so now I'm interested. Okay, so
they're called nootropics, nootropic medicines, which benefit.
See, I've never heard of these mushrooms. I'm familiar more with your sort of chestnut and shitache.
Shiitake.
Shiitake.
They're less common varieties,
magic,
but they're supposed to be, and magic, which are supposed to be very good for your cognitive ability.
Oh, right, okay.
They help repair certain synapses in the brain and stuff like that.
Yeah. Really? And where would you get these mushrooms from? You wouldn't get them from...
You can go to any sort of natural food type place, like Holland and Barrett's, or you can go online and you can find nootropic supplements. But specifically things like lion mane, reishi are the two big ones. And then there are others. Cordyceps are another one, which is supposed to be very good for your brain function as well.
Wow. Okay. Well,
but that's brain function. That's not for the rest of your body. Obviously, you should be taking a range of vitamins. If you feel that it's of benefit and you think that it's working for you, then go for it.
Okay.
Well, fish oils and things like that. But then you have to be careful where you get the fish oil from. You should get it from krill, because krill contains less mercury. Because obviously a lot of fish consume mercury.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got to be careful about heavy metals in your system and things like that.
Of course.
Like if you have, like even obviously from a while back, I'm talking about when they would put mercury fillers in your teeth, for example.
And yes, I've had the issues.
And then sometimes they start to decay. It leaches into your blood. That can be bad.
Yeah.
So if you have mercury fillings, you should ideally try and find a way to get those removed and replaced with more modern versions of. But I mean, there's lots of things you can do. But I'd say a lot of the stuff you can get online is usually rubbish. It's one of those things that you've got to pay the money.
So the real McCoy, if you like, that's going to do you some good. It's going to cost.
It's going to cost you a bit of money.
Okay.
But for your health, it's worth it, I guess.
Interesting thing, because I think I mentioned before I had a hospital appointment yesterday. Damn little flies keep appearing from everywhere. You know, they're very irritating little bastards.
Get on with it.
Anyway, yes, it's cutting into our valuable time. I had this hospital appointment, and we were talking in general terms, and I mentioned the fact that I'd take one of those sort of fizzing vitamin C supplements every day,
like a Barocca or
like
other kind of fizzy,
other kind of yes,
fizzy vitamin C things you can drink.
And the consultant at the hospital said, "Oh no, stop straight away, stop." And this was only yesterday, and I went, "How come? How come?" I thought that it was no. And I said, "What's going on here?" He said, "Frankly, it's part of the great lie that somehow taking a vitamin C supplement like that is going to do you any good. In actual fact, it's more likely to the acidity levels in it, in 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, is likely to more do harm than good because of the impact on the kidneys." It's the first time I've ever heard this. And so that was the consultant at the hospital. So,
but you can still take vitamin C in another form, and it'll be fine.
Well, I suppose a good, healthy, balanced, and varied diet,
or a non-fizzy vitamin C supplement.
Providing it wasn't 1,000 milligrams, because the problem isn't the fizz; it's the ascorbic acid, which is obviously vitamin C, and the concentration of it, the amount of it in one hit, rather than it going through your digestive system and being of plucked a little bit at a time. So there you go. Vitamin C, fizz or otherwise, supplements aren't that good for you, and they don't really do anything. They do bugger all. You tend to as I said, you get extraction from a healthy diet, and any excess, because it's a water-soluble vitamin, you would pee out anyway.
The majority ends up...
The mushroom thing is kind of interesting. But obviously with these kind of news, it's a bit like the old statins thing. It's who's promoting.
Yeah.
So there we go. Have we've sort of under 10 minutes there.
On to the next one. Then.
On to the next one. So I thought for our next little... there we go. So don't take your vitamin C. Get out the cabbages, the carrots, and all the other bits and pieces, and cook yourself a balanced, varied, and healthy diet. So, what do we think about the protests, the behaviour of the police towards the protesters that are protesting around the morning of Her Majesty the Queen? I think someone was arrested, weren't they, for holding up a blank sheet of paper, and another one saying, "Not my king." What do we think about this?
People should have the right to protest in any form they choose, shouldn't they? Even if it's unpleasant. Admittedly, it might be in bad taste, which I can understand that side of it.
Yeah.
But to arrest someone seems a bit excessive.
Well, yes.
The other thing we were talking about was obviously there was that one gentleman who, as Prince Andrew was walking behind the procession, decided from the side stands to scream, "Dirty old man," again and again, and then the police bundled
referring to Andrew,
Prince Andrew,
yeah,
and they very quickly dispatched him and took him away and arrested him for breach of the peace.
Okay, do you think that was a legitimate arrest? Where's that?
So is that excessive? Was that too far? Is it a statement of somewhat fact? Because obviously,
Well, this is getting that way, isn't it? It's kind of
but I guess
expressing a point of view about all the case that took place with Epstein.
But he wasn't actually accused. Well, he was accused, but he wasn't.
But he wasn't. Well, 12 million goes a long way.
No, but it's my point. But there was never any kind of criminal case that was put forward.
But it's still a form of protest. So therefore, under other circumstances, if it had been somebody else and he was heckling them in the street saying, "Oh, you dirty old man," would they have been arrested, or is it only because it was directed at a royal during the time of mourning that suddenly
public forced mourning that you have to just toe the line?
What do you make about the people who were questioned questioned, I say, by the police for holding up a blank sheet of paper. I mean, here we go. It was controversy over a number of protesters having been removed by the police or arrested. You've had the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, suggesting that people who wish to protest against him should respect those mourning the Queen and not ruin their opportunity to express their private thanks. What do we think about it? Do you think it's a bit disrespectful? Do you think it would have been better a protest for another day, not to sort of, how can I put it?
Well, when is a good day? Because I'm assuming you won't do it on the day of the funeral, because that would truly be a different level of disrespect if you were to do that. I can understand that. But we're leading up to.
Yes.
You know, there's not a specific, this isn't a specifically important day.
And protests have to have some, surely some
you have to have the
sensible timing, because otherwise it's sort of like,
there's no point.
People who were complaining about that last month. Why are you doing it here? It's there has to be some relevance.
The whole point is that it was that day was as good a platform as any to do a protest. There were people out and about. There's media all over the place. If you're going to make a statement, it would be seen.
Exactly.
And there's no point doing a protest if no one sees or hears about it.
No, exactly. I couldn't agree.
We should respect people's right to protest and to make a statement, even if it goes against the status quo.
Yeah.
People shouldn't then be arrested for the protest, as long as they didn't impede the procession or they didn't do anything to sort of do harm to others.
Yeah.
Then what's the problem?
Well,
we're supposed to be a free society.
It doesn't look very free.
No, it looks like we're sort of planting a boot on people's heads because we don't want them to.
Yes, because we expect that they should all behave in a certain way, which of course goes back to what we said before about
not all of us
managing the programming on television. Has kind of been
not all of
changed.
us choose to defer to the royalty.
No, exactly.
Or to the monarchy.
Exactly.
There's a question: are we British citizens or are we British subjects?
Excuse me, for hundreds of years they didn't defer to themselves much. They were chopping each other's heads off willy-nilly.
Yeah. So are we citizens or are we subjects? And there seems to be a bit of a blurred line.
Blurred line between it. Yes. Personally, there's a certain side of me that thinks, well, it's a bit thought. And of course, there's a lot of people who protest just for the sake of protesting. They have no real reason or long-term determined cause to protest on a particular subject.
But they have a right as anyone else just to be there.
Yes.
Even if they're not actually there for any particular purpose. Yes. If their intention is to go out onto the street and hold up a sign, go for it.
Yeah.
Who am I to tell you otherwise? Just don't glue yourself to the motorway and prevent traffic to go past, because that's just really flipping them off.
Well, that would be a breach of the peace, wouldn't it? But standing there with a banner saying "Not my king" or "Andrew is a knobhead," but it's not exactly.
You're happy to leave those environmentalists in the street for hours, negotiating with them to try and remove them. Yeah. But as soon as someone holds up a white piece of paper
with nothing on it,
you rip them off the street.
The question at length. That
doesn't make any sense.
Yes, it does seem a little excessive. Well, there we go. How are we doing on there? Are we?
Don't worry about the time. Just on to
we
the
are
next
ripping through this, ladies and gentlemen. So, as a quick aside to this, before we leave the subject entirely, because I think we're all losing the will to live if this goes much longer. With the funeral arrangements and so forth. What do you make of the sort of cancellations of sporting events and all these different kind of things happening? Even some flights, I gather, have been cancelled for Monday because it's supposed to be a national holiday. Do you not think that at a time of economic crisis that's actually a little bit foolish to curtail the opportunity for businesses to gain a little bit of revenue, at least.
We've been told to mourn, so whether we like it or not, we just have to accept it. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't change the course of any of this.
Right.
We've been told we're all going to mourn for the next 11 days. And if people are put out by it, well, then tough luck. And that's where we are.
Tough titty, eh?
Tough shit.
There we go.
Next.
So, on to the third and final...
Not final, because we can get another
well,
two
we
in
can
there.
get another few subjects in, yes.
This is it's news to me turbocharged.
News to me turbocharged. That's, yes, I'm 61 and turbocharging it. So, what do we think then? It looks as though there's been a bit of a turnaround of fortunes in the Ukraine-Russia war, with Russia having been pushed back and out of an area, apparently, according to last night's news, the size of Kent. Sorry, but, I failed to kind of be able to get my head round the meaning of why the analogy was something the size of Kent.
The Ukrainian forces are claiming 6,000 kilometers.
6,000 square kilometers.
6,000 square kilometers. Yeah. And how many square kilometers has Russia taken over the course of the past 6 months, excluding Crimea?
30-15.
Can we give a number? Can I tell you?
Well, you can give me a number.
I can give you a number.
Can
You'll probably tell me I'm lying.
Well, no, I won't tell you you're lying.
It's about...
I'll just keep it to myself.
Go
on.
They claim on average it's around 320,000 kilometres worth of land.
Square kilometres.
Kilometres.
So there's a little way for them to go.
They've got a little way to go to get the rest of their country back. But it definitely was a Ukrainian victory. It's the first time I've ever said that, but I will say that 100% Ukraine... Well, first of all, Ukraine tried a similar tactic further south.
Yes.
And it was a complete failure. That was never mentioned in the media. And a lot of people lost their lives.
Okay.
I can't remember which town it was, but they tried to do a counteroffensive. It was a bust. It didn't work. A lot of people died, and it was an unmitigated failure. They've now again tried in the east, and they were much more successful trying to claiming that they sort of got 6,000 kilometers back. It's probably not quite that much, but it's still a victory. Get away. Sorry, but oi, easy.
Sorry about that.
The issue.
Twatted.
The issue is that while this is a short-term victory, we have to wait and see what the response is from the Russian side, because I think Russia, their aim was to push further south into Odessa, and they had moved a lot of their military personnel from the east in order to focus on the south. I think now there's kind of a period of sort of quiet where they're sort of regenerating their forces, and then there'll be another push soon, we have to assume.
It's when you open your hand. No. I thought I had it, and now it's flying somewhere over there. Bloody thing! I've had two this morning. Anyway, yes.
So, short-term victory for Ukraine. How much of a success it really is, who knows? But the media is definitely pushing it as a Russian defeat.
What do you
kick in the teeth. Putin's going to reverse his entire course and decide to back off totally. That's probably nonsense.
What do you make of this so-called letter from officials out of both Moscow and St. Petersburg? Or as unfortunately MSN News made the terrible error. Instead of putting St. Petersburg, they wrote St. Peterborough.
Close enough.
It's close enough. It's several thousand miles the wrong direction. but they're supposedly calling for Mr. Putin's removal because he's locked us back to pre-perestroika, was it? Pre-92 levels, back to the Cold War, and Russia being vilified and.
They've always been okay. Let's make it clear. Russia's always been vilified.
Yes, so it's Peterborough.
Between the US and Europe,
yes,
we always need to have a boogeyman.
And it's human nature, isn't it?
No, not really.
Oh, I think so.
It seems to be part of political. It seems to be part of policy now.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a boogeyman, if you don't have an enemy, then you can't advance. You can't advance militarily. You can't advance economically because you need to have someone to compete against.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't the war on terror, it was the Soviet Union. Then it was Russia. Now it's going to be China.
Don't us as humans grow up right from childhood, especially in the West? I can't speak for them. We grow up being lied to almost from the moment that we can understand anything, having popped out of the womb. First, it's the
propaganda.
Christmas, it's Father Christmas, it's the Tooth Fairy, it's this, that, and the other. And then as we get older, it's a little bit older, it's the Boogeyman, and it's this, that, and the other. And then as we get to adulthood, the Boogeyman, if you like, is the Tooth Fairy is like the Queen, supposedly. And the Boogeyman is usually the leader or another entirety of a country.
The commoner has to be
nature.
The commoner has to be in constant fear.
Right.
Because if we're not in constant fear, we can't be controlled.
It's a very interesting point. There we go.
Because if we had nothing to worry about,
yeah,
we wouldn't listen to what the government had to say. It's because we feel that we need to have the government there to help us, support us, to keep us safe, to act as our defender, to act as our economic.
They'd have no reason to exist.
Precisely
so
right.
They create the need.
Precisely right. And bear in mind, you look at the size of the Russian economy, for example.
Yes, it's only about 2 or 3% of the global.
It's one. Well, at least compared to the US.
Yes.
It's 1/13.
1/13 of the size of the US economy.
So
it's about the size of Minnesota.
Who are we fighting against? We're fighting against an economic power which is much, much weaker than us. Even if they do have, one of the largest military...
Third largest army in the world.
Third largest army in the world. But based on 80s technology, for the most part, they do have some very advanced systems which are coming into play.
But they're also starting to find out how much of them have been lied about.
Hold on a second.
It's just been money going. Yes, it's brand new. Let me have that one.
But they also have one nuclear weapon that could destroy our entire country if they wanted to.
Yes, but
that's not a tooth. This is not the Tooth Fairy talking.
No, but
they have a weapon capable of destroying England.
Given the reliability of the weapon, could easily end up landing on themselves.
No.
That's a sobering thought.
Because their nuclear armaments are far more advanced than any of ours.
Well,
no, Simon.
I think it's a theory I wouldn't like to test.
It's not one.
Frankly.
But it's not a theory, unfortunately, it's fact.
Ah.
They have armaments that could destroy our country in one hit.
Gotcha.
Right? So they're not using it because it would essentially mean, mutually assured destruction, which you'll understand. But the capability is there. They just choose not to use it.
Okay.
And that's the only leverage that they have.
Right.
It's not their economic or military threat. It's the fact that they have thousands of nuclear armaments, because of the Cold War, because we wanted to create an enemy, that they were forced into this, weapons arms race, which allowed them to have such a huge amount of armaments. So we kind of stupidly find ourselves in a position now where we've armed a country which didn't need to be armed to that level. But here we are, and so there's nothing much we can do about it.
Yes, well, of course, the law of unintended consequences.
Exactly.
Oh, well, I'm sure there'll be plenty more time to discuss the because I don't imagine
this conflict
is going to end anytime soon.
No.
I think we
and that's not, in fact, that's not what people were saying right at the beginning. Yes. People were saying, okay, this will be over and done with within a month or two.
Yeah.
But by the looks of it, this is going to drag on for a long, long time, and we haven't heard the end of this at all. All right, we've got one more.
Right, so I thought we'd probably we seem to now COVID has kind of gone off the radar. It's fell rapidly down the pecking order of news of late. What with the war in Ukraine, the energy crisis, then the Queen's death.
Oddly, by the way, they were saying in the US numbers have gone up, and it's now affecting it's affecting employment because a lot of people are not going to work and are calling off sick, and it's actually affecting the service economy.
Well, I'm still coming across quite a lot of people here who are telling me, oh no, I was ill last week with coronavirus. I mean, is it by and large, do you think let's just have a look at where we are with the cases.
This is of what today?
COVID-19 cases, confirmed reinfections. I mean, don't get me wrong. At 2nd of September, 2022, daily cases, the reinfection rate was 24.7, 25%, a quarter of all cases are reinfection.
This is like
cases.
second or third
time, like myself, who keep.
I know a friend of mine who's caught it 4 times, but he also works in the bar, so maybe that's understandable.
Right. I mean, let's just have a look at. Let's have a look at. For example, let's see if we can have a look at some figures here for say where numbers are. This is 7 days to the 3rd of September, so it's a couple of weeks ago, but we would expect this. The news is kind of a little, and it's done by almost city by city, but it's kind of still.
That's good.
It's
kind of some examples.
Well, we've got. Let's avoid Scotland for a moment. No offence, Scotland, but let's move a little closer to home.
Sick man of Europe.
The sick man of Europe. But there we go, you see. So take Harrogate, for example. There's only 65 cases in that week. And it seems to have dropped. If you look town by town, here, Blackpool, 50, 49, 48. So similar numbers, by the looks of it, right across the country. And interestingly, Northern Ireland, zero really? Across most. Well, here you go. Antrim, Newton Abbey, Armagh, Derry, Lisbon, Middlesbrough, Belfast, Causeway Coast and Glens, Fermanagh, Omagh, Mid and East Antrim, Newry, Mourne Down, Erds and North Down, if I've pronounced it correct, all zero. In that week at zero. So
we have to assume it's got something to do with the fact that sort of over the summer you'd assume that cases would be lower, and we really have to wait and see come end of October, November, when the temperatures really start to fall.
Yes,
and people really do start becoming more ill, seasonal flu if that comes back.
Well, they're expecting a bad flu season because I believe in Australia it's been pretty bad in their winter. So I think the anticipation is that we're going to have a really bad flu season here.
But obviously it's worse, right?
Do you think we're going to end up in going around in a circle with a big winter wave, or do you think that coronavirus is largely a spent force in terms
we've got a problem
killing people?
In that now with this whole cost of living thing and people not knowing exactly what their bills are going to look like, let's say second quarter, December, so last quarter, fourth quarter, December, if people are questioning whether or not to turn their heating on,
Yes,
and they're
as we all are.
and they're preparing to potentially stay at home in a potentially cold home or colder home than usual,
Yes.
and they use other means to warm themselves, whatever that might be, the likelihood that you're going to get sicker goes up.
Of course it does.
So
It's greatly increased.
So you might have the twofold effect. Not only will flu come back as it usually does, we don't know what effect that will have with the COVID virus either. But then to add to the equation, people won't be heating their homes as much, which would lead you to be more susceptible to then getting ill.
Yeah.
We might have greater numbers than we've seen previously.
Do you think the actual
or potentially
virus itself,
or potential
now
mutation again?
Yes, it could
with
mutate.
With more people getting ill, it might mutate again.
Is it likely to mutate a more vicious way,
exactly.
or is it, as we've seen so far, running that quite typical path?
Which way will it go?
Of greater numbers, but a weakening,
less fatality. But we don't know ultimately.
So we could be going around in yet another big circle, because surely, part of the issue of the current crisis we find ourselves in is as a consequence of coming out of big lockdowns, the big sort of COVID thing, and how that's affected supply chains and the like. Presumably it would just keep the whole thing going around in a big bloody circle.
People are a lot less cautious now. People really aren't wearing masks all that often. Even when we came back from the US, they note that they do a message on the intercom.
Yeah.
They say you are no longer mandated to wear a mask. However, those that choose to, please go ahead. And then they ask for respect for those people who choose to, and those who don't. That you sort of respect each other's decisions and not make any comment.
I can tell you ahead of my next trip.
There was like 6 of us that I counted on the plane that wore a mask, including me and Justine.
Yeah.
But most other people didn't.
I can tell you ahead of our trip to Spain that it is still a requirement to wear it at Spanish airports, still a requirement to wear it in certain shops, pharmacies, doctors, surgeries, etc., etc., etc. I'm not sure about the gyms, because gyms in Spain, it was mandatory last year to wear a mask. And trust me, trying to work out in a mask is pretty impossible. We attempted it the once.
It's good for your CO2 levels. Increases your lung capacity.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not great for you, because as soon as you start breathing deep, you do breathe in some of the very small fibres that are on these masks. So at the same time, it might be good for one thing. It's bloody awful for you, the condition of your respiratory tract generally. I've never been convinced by the mask thing, but there you go. And it seems that from what I was reading, that it is still a requirement to wear it on the plane.
Maybe there's a difference between international flights and European flights.
Yes. But don't get me wrong. Yes, I've started to wear masks less here. I no longer wear one when I go to the supermarket, although I still choose to go when it's empty. I had to wear one when I walked into the hospital yesterday. In fact, the big fuss was made over it. But when I sat with the consultant, him and I actually took our masks off. So it's kind of a bit all over the place, and and don't get me wrong. When I was diligently wearing a mask is when I ended up with COVID full time. So I'm less than convinced that it did any favours at all.
Even if it makes you feel better, it's worth doing it. Even if it doesn't really have much effect, which probably doesn't, but still, it makes you feel better.
Yes. Well, I mean, let's see if while we're there, before we leave the subject entirely, whether there are any cases for London that I can find. Let me have a look. Weirdly, it doesn't do it in... oh, look, I found Peterborough. And there we go. Let's give us a number for London. It might actually be spliced.
Does it do it by borough?
It might be by borough.
There you go. Harrow, 43.
43. Bromley, 42. Thurrock, 41.
That's not
So really, Kingston upon Thames, 40. It seems to me.
There you go. Brent, 38.
Brent, 38. Croydon, 38.
So I mean, it's
so
phenomenal.
It
isn't
looks as though really the numbers right across the country are generally hovering at similar levels.
Let's hope it
Bear in
continues
mind that
to
was
be
the
case,
week running up to the 3rd of September, rather than this week. But it shows you that at the moment it's a bit of a damp squib, and we hope it remains that way.
And that's all for News to Me 3.
And yes, that's all for today, folks.
So once again,
that's all, folks.
Once again, thank you for everything, for all your support. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you could.
Yes, not the only trust that we need.
Have a good
support.
day.
Did you get that?
No.
No.